Welcome to HDTV. I'm so excited to be joined today with Matt Goodrich of Goodrich and Danny Meyer of Union Square Hospitality Group in the beautiful Ci Siamo. Thank you for joining me here today.
Welcome.
Yeah. So Danny, this is your first restaurant in New York since 2018. What did you want to create here? What was the concept?
I wanted to create a place that would represent the time we're in, but the fascinating part of it is that we came up with the idea and the design before we knew anything about COVID. The tables lay out in a way that there's enough space that you can feel this amazing sense of being with people, but being with the person you came with. And I kind of feel like that captures what people want more than anything. We always strive with any restaurant to try to blur the line between going out and coming home. You should feel like there's stuff that's happening here that you would never get at home. And the other thing that I think is really unique about this, if we've had one complaint since we've opened it, it's impossible to find. Well, guess what? Every single night, the minute we put reservations online 4 weeks in advance, it sells out. And I think that the experience of finding this place is actually, ironically, part of what people like.
So talk a little bit about where we are. It's the Manhattan West development. What drew you to this spot?
It's always been part of my love affair with New York to try to plant a flag in a neighborhood that I believe is going somewhere. And in the case of Union Square Cafe and Gramercy Tavern, we named it after the place itself. We didn't name Ci Siamo after Manhattan West, but this was a neighborhood that actually never existed before. We're actually sitting on top of what was once the underpass to the Lincoln Tunnel and remains that, but this whole project has been built on top of that. And so it's a fascinating thing to be just west of the brand new old Moynihan train station, which I think is a great New York destination and a classic in the making. And to have a place that people can now discover and claim a new part of Manhattan. And so we wanted to make an early bet on a neighborhood that we think is going to really become quite special.
I feel like one of the first things Danny said to us is, having that very warm, intimate, first point of contact is really important. And we're in a really beautiful context here. Skidmore, Owings & Merrill designed these buildings. They're very sleek, they're very clean, but it was really important to have almost like a handshake or a hug when you came in, the warmth of the facade. So we were able to use terracotta tile, glazed ceramic tile. We made our entrance sign, the Ci Siamo sign, out of terracotta. And there's even a cast glass pull on the door. So the first thing you touch is a crafted artisan piece that's vintage.
But the cool thing is, it's like being on a scavenger hunt. And when you find the prize, you're like, yes.
So I think then when you're coming up, the whole thing opens up and all of a sudden you can see the restaurant unfold behind you and in front of you. You get greeted in this warm way.
And you feel like you've earned your appetite.
You've earned it, exactly. You use some vintage furniture for the server stations. Some of the seating pieces are vintage. Some of the lighting is vintage. And so that was another concern, was that we have a brand new building. We're trying to create something that has warmth and patina and depth and feels like it's been here forever and doesn't feel shiny and brand new.
And kind of make people forget the reality of this very, very modern world they just emerged from. And the fascinating thing is, once you're here, you forget everything. We're turning something that's very functional, which is our wine cellar. We sell a lot of wine here, but the very, very first thing you notice when you come in is, I'm going to be drinking good wine while I'm here.
Yeah.
And people do. Of the many schematic designs we did, I'm going to guess that an enormous number of them had to do with where the location of the bar should be.
That is right.
And I'm pretty sure I remember one where the bar was over here, one where it was here, one where it was here.
Yes.
I think we had one that was perpendicular to the restaurant.
That's right. Yeah.
And here it is.
Yeah, and I think this was the last one, because we tried so many other things, and in the end, I remember talking about having this sense of arrival, but also having the energy between the lounge area and the bar, and having people close together, so that you talked about that sort of sense of really arriving, right, and coming into to energy and coming into this vibrant space. And I know the restaurant's been so popular that a lot of people eat their full dinners in this space now. It's a little different than what we anticipated.
I was watching somebody the other night try to eat a full dinner on this vintage table that has
right. three prominent
globes on top and trying to make the plates somehow work there.
What were you looking for in a design collaborator, and how did you end up picking Matt?
Well, I'm so glad that I was led to Matt. One of the really fun things for me about design, it's actually the same thing with collaborating with a chef, is when you have an opportunity to play your music but with someone else's band. You know, I like these kind of super groups in the world of music, and it's an opportunity to, I don't know, to freshen up what we do. So we don't stop being us, but we have the opportunity to bounce our ideas off of someone who brings their own ideas. And really from the very, very beginning, I think we had a very, very good and easy and natural connection.
There's no restaurateur I admire more than you. And there was a little bit of stress about that. You know, it's like, careful what you wish for, because I want to make sure we did a great job. But it's completely transformed our studio. I mean, being able to work on this project, everyone on our team through the process, talking with you about these things, really learning hospitality in such a deeper way, it's completely changed our studio and what we can do as a team now.
Well, and Matt's also being very humble because they also have an amazing graphic design department in their studio, and we've had a great time working with them. Very, very early on in this process, when this whole Manhattan West project was being built, we started talking about what this place wanted to be. And so I named 5 or 6 notes in the octave, sent Matt and a couple others on a trip around the world, actually, to go experience some of those notes.
What was this trip that you went on?
So the trip was incredible. Danny made arrangements for us to visit a few restaurants in London, a few in Paris, and then several in Italy. We came back exhausted, and the team in the office was like, oh yeah, right, because it was quite fast, right? We went and ate multiple times a day in multiple places, but Danny said, you'll never understand what I mean and sort of what's special about this if you aren't in the restaurant. And it wasn't about looking at a certain design moment, it was sometimes about really how you feel or how service happened or the sort of the way the space unfolded or the whole experience unfolded.
Yeah, it could have been the relationship of the bar to the entrance, or it could have been the relationship of the kitchen to the dining room.
We definitely did have some conversations about color, and particularly the green color.
Right up to and including after it was already painted.
That was a nerve-wracking meeting that we had on site to say, like, so could we change the paint color now that it's all painted? But I think we felt comfortable, just you said, that once people were in and the experience was happening, that this was the right backdrop, it was the right background for that. And I don't know, how do you feel about the green now?
I've learned to live with it. No, but you also helped me to see that 100% of our meetings early were in daylight.
Yes, that's right.
And that the restaurant would take on a very different feeling at night, because we weren't building this at night.
That's right.
And we weren't having our design meetings at night. And what I found is that the color, you were right, the color works really beautifully at all times of day.
I think we had a lot of conversation about not having this barrier, about turning the activity outward. And I know as we were planning this, a lot of people said, are you going to get away with this? You know, where are the guards? And even the floor change, where we have the same floor of the dining room rolls right into the kitchen. The materials that we clad all of the kitchen equipment with have that dining room kind of quality. And when you sit here or anywhere in this front dining room, you're watching all of this unfold in front of you, and it just gives so much energy to the experience.
We were thinking that this kitchen would be for pizzas. We were even thinking that we may have 2 different menus, one for this half of the restaurant and one for the other, which we've done at some of our restaurants like the Modern or Gramercy Tavern, Tabla before that. And I'm really glad that where we landed is It's democratic. There's one menu no matter where you sit.
Yeah.
And each kitchen plays a role in every part of the restaurant.
Yeah.
What led you to Chef Hillary Sterling?
Hillary and I think first met when she helped to cook at a Share Our Strength No Kid Hungry event at one of our restaurants many, many years ago. And I had never heard of her. The chef of the restaurant at the time had created a whole lineup of wonderful chefs actually from around the world. Hillary's was one of 6 at that dinner. And her food turned my head then. It blew my mind that she could make something that good for an event. And then I started going to her restaurant, Vic's, and we got to know each other. And interestingly, before we had a chef for Ci Siamo, we had a design.
Mm-hmm.
And Hillary had heard through the grapevine about this design from another restaurateur. And she was the one who picked up the phone and said, I think it's time we do something together. It just fits so perfectly.
And you also brought back Chef Claudia Fleming, pastry chef.
The timing was just perfect. It turned out that she and Hillary, respectively, were big fans of one another. And for the two of them to have the opportunity to conceive how to make Hillary's food and Claudia's desserts really feel like one was a remarkable opportunity. And it really resonated. It has and continues to resonate. I don't think I've seen a restaurant in my entire career where every single table orders dessert that's not a prefix restaurant.
Yeah.
Prefix restaurant, everyone gets dessert because they have to.
Right.
Here it's just because they want to. Having the right chef for the right restaurant, the right idea at the right time is in and of itself hard enough. But then when you say, oh, and by the way, here's your kitchen.
Right.
And it's already been designed, and there's 2 kitchens. Morning, guys.
Hi,
How are you?
good, how are you?
Good. I love the color of the entire range here.
Yeah.
It's just, that's a very domestic feeling. That does not look like your typical
That's
restaurant.
right. That's right. That's actually one of my favorite things, and probably a lot of people don't really see it, but this whole jade suite is an enamel that's sort of like a soft pistachio color. And that was one of the big goals throughout, having these kitchens feel much more residential or much more like they could have been part of a home kitchen rather than a big industrial kitchen. And then having the fire, obviously, it's like so primal, so deep and so rich. And especially in this room, you can't not see that flicker and that flame. It's really, really compelling.
And we're just getting it started for what will be a very busy day and night.
Yeah.
And it won't go out all day from this point on.
Amazing.
And how is that idea of cooking with fire so essential to your material palette and what you wanted to create with your design?
Well, when we were talking with Danny about sort of how to build and craft the space, I feel like, Danny, you kept giving examples of how each part of a design can be very intentional and can carry a lot of deeper meaning. And so that set us on this path of thinking about the food being transformed over live fire. And we looked at sort of artisan materials and the way the materiality is transformed by fire. So we've used glazed ceramic, terracotta tile, forged metal, blown glass, slumped glass. We created a palette of materials that kind of speaks to, in a subtle way, that idea of the fire being the transformative effect that brings the material to its final form. So this is an artist named Meredith Feniak, who's based in Colorado. And we originally had the idea of casting all of these tiles and installing them on site. Timing and logistics being what they were, what we ended up doing is installing all the tile, and then Meredith came and actually drew this mural directly on the frieze of tile in charcoal. So our idea of this sort of story of fire, she drew it all in charcoal, and she worked with Danny and Hillary to sort of shape which vegetables and produce we're incorporating into that. So this is basically things that are featured in Hillary's menu in a very kind of soft, abstract way.
I think our team here has been incredibly inspired by what they've learned about design. If you're a cook in any restaurant in New York, you're not standing on a floor like this,
That's true.
looking out windows like this, looking into a dining room like this. And I think that I cannot overstate how important it is to feel good while you're working this hard
Yeah.
in the service of other people. And I think it's a big contributor to why people love working here, which is a big contributor why people love dining here. I couldn't be more proud of what you created.
Danny, I feel the same way. It's been a real treat to walk down the many years of work together, and it's really one of the greatest things that I've ever been part of, and I thank you so much for the experience, and I'm excited it's been so successful.